The signal came at midnight ship time. Vance was sleeping in the pilot's seat of her old freighter when the alarm screamed through the cabin. She opened her eyes and saw red lights flashing across every screen. Her hands moved before her mind caught up, fingers dancing across controls she had touched 1,000 times before. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." The words on the screen were clear. Dominion space. Human vessel DETACTED. Lockdown initiated. She had been careful. She had taken the long route, the dangerous route, through dead systems and forgotten jump points. She had turned off every signal, every beacon, everything that could give her away. But somehow they had found her. The freighter shook as something hit the hull. Not a weapon, something worse. An EMP mine designed to kill all power without destroying the ship. The Dominion did not want her dead. They wanted her alive. Watched her screens go dark one by one. The engines died. The lights died. Even the air recyclers fell silent. In the sudden quiet, she could hear her own heartbeat, fast and loud in her ears. Through the front window, she saw where she was falling. A moon, gray and white and covered in ice. No atmosphere, no life, no hope. She had maybe 10 minutes before impact. Moved fast. She grabbed her survival pack from under the seat. She pulled on her emergency suit, the old military one she had kept from the war. She checked the oxygen. 6 hours, maybe 7 if she breathed slow. The moon grew larger in the window. She could see mountains of ice, deep canyons cutting across the surface like wounds. Somewhere down there were old mining tunnels, abandoned decades ago when the resources ran out. If she could reach them, she might survive long enough to think. The crash was bad. The freighter hit a ridge of ice and broke apart, was thrown against her straps hard enough to crack something in her chest. Pain exploded through her body, but she was alive. She was still alive. She crawled out of the wreckage into the frozen darkness. The sky above was full of stars, cold and distant, and there, hanging in the black like a metal spider, was a ship, not Dominion military, something worse, a hunter ship, long and black and covered in weapons. Knew what it meant. She had heard stories during the war. When the Dominion wanted someone dead but did not want to use their own soldiers, they hired specialists. Killers from a dozen different species, each one evolved on some nightmare world where everything was designed to hunt and kill. They called them predator squads. She did not wait to watch the ship descend. She ran. The ice was sharp under her boots. Every breath hurt her broken ribs. But she kept moving, heading for the dark mouth of a canyon she had seen from the air. Behind her, she heard the hunter ship landing. She heard voices, strange and clicking, speaking languages she did not understand. The canyon walls rose around her like the sides of a grave. The darkness was almost complete. She turned on her helmet light and saw tunnels ahead, old mining shafts cutting deep into the frozen rock. She picked one and ran inside. For the next hour, she moved through the tunnels without stopping. She left blood on the ice behind her. Her ribs screamed with every step, but she could not stop, not yet. Finally, deep in the maze of abandoned mines, she found a small chamber and collapsed against the wall. Her breath came in short, painful gasps. Her hands were shaking. She was alone, injured. No weapons except a small plasma cutter in her pack designed for repairs, not combat. No way to call for help. No way to escape. And somewhere above her, 8 of the deadliest hunters in the galaxy were coming to kill her. Closed her eyes and tried to think. The fear was there, cold and heavy in her stomach. But underneath it, something else was waking up. Something she had buried years ago, after the war ended and she had tried so hard to become someone normal. Someone who delivered medicine to sick colonies and did not dream about blood. She thought about the soldiers she had watched die during the war. She thought about the 3 months on 6, when her unit had held a colony against 10,000 Dominion troops with nothing but broken weapons and desperate hope. She thought about the things she had done to survive, the things that still visited her in nightmares. She had tried to forget. She had tried to become soft and kind and peaceful. But they had found her anyway. They had sent killers after her anyway. And now she remembered what she really was. Opened her eyes. The fear was still there, but it was smaller now, quieter, pushed down by something older and colder. She looked at her plasma cutter. She looked at the ice around her, the old equipment left behind by the miners, the narrow tunnels that twisted through the frozen rock. 8 predators, 8 killers from 8 different nightmare worlds. They thought they were hunting a scared human woman. They thought this would be easy. They were wrong. Vance had been a Nightfall operative. Black Ops. The soldiers humanity sent when everything was already lost, when the only goal was to make the enemy pay for every inch of ground in blood. Her unit had learned to kill things bigger and stronger and faster than them, using nothing but cleverness and patience, and the one thing humans had that no other species seemed to understand. Spite, pure burning spite. She stood up slowly, ignoring the pain in her chest. She looked around the chamber with new eyes, seeing not a prison but a battlefield. The tunnels were narrow. The ice was unstable. The hunters did not know this place, but she would learn it fast. They wanted a hunt, fine. She would give them a hunt they would never forget. Somewhere above, in the hunter's ship, 8 predators were preparing their weapons and laughing about how quickly this would end. They gave themselves 3 hours. They had no idea what was coming. Picked up her plasma cutter and started to work. She had traps to build and a message to send. By the time they found her, this frozen moon would become their grave. The hunt had begun, but the prey had teeth. The hunter ship sat on the ice like a black insect, its engines cooling in the frozen air. Inside, 8 figures gathered around a holographic display that showed the tunnels beneath the moon's surface. The squad leader studied the map with 4 cold eyes. His species came from a world of eternal darkness where only the strongest and survived. He had killed more targets than he could remember. Humans, he had learned, were fragile things. Soft skin, weak bones, no claws, no venom, no natural weapons at all. This would be simple. 1 female, he said, his voice like stones grinding together, injured from the crash. She went into the eastern tunnels. You will track her, a watch from above. The rest of us will wait at the exits. She has nowhere to go. Clicked his agreement. He was a thermal hunter, 6 legs and a body built low to the ground, with eyes that could see heat through solid rock. On his, nothing escaped him. Nothing. He entered the tunnels alone, moving fast and silent. The cold did not bother him. His body was designed for places like this. He could see the human's heat trail glowing on the ice, fading slowly but still bright enough to follow. She was moving deeper, running scared like prey always did. Followed the trail through twisting passages and narrow shafts. The blood she left behind confirmed what he already knew. She was hurt, weak, dying slowly. He almost felt sorry for her, almost. The trail led into a narrow shaft that dropped straight down into darkness, paused at the edge, scanning for heat. There, at the bottom, a warm shape pressed against the wall, barely moving. He smiled with too many teeth and started to climb down. The shaft was tight, but his body was flexible. He moved head first, all 6 legs gripping the ice. His eyes stayed locked on the heat signature below, so close now. He could almost taste the kill. He never saw the wire. It was thin, almost invisible, stretched across the shaft at the height of his neck. By the time he felt it touch his scales, he was already moving too fast. The monofilament cut through him like he was made of water. His body fell the rest of the way down. His head stayed behind, stuck to the ice, his eyes still glowing with heat vision that no longer saw anything. In the shadows at the bottom of the shaft, the warm shape moved, but it was not the human. It was a heating unit from her survival pack, wrapped in thermal cloth to look like a body. Watched from a hidden crack in the wall, 20 meters away. She watched the predator die. She felt nothing except cold satisfaction. 1 down, 7 to go. Above in the hunter ship waited for to report. The minutes passed, nothing. Respond. Silence. 4 eyes narrowed. Equipment failure, probably. These old tunnels were full of interference. He turned to the aerial scout. Her wings were folded against her back, but even folded they were impressive, designed for silent flight in any atmosphere. Find him, ordered. I did not argue. She was proud of her speed, her eyes that could see in any darkness. She would find, and then she would find the human and show the others how a real hunter worked. She entered the tunnels from a different direction, from above, through a ventilation shaft that led straight down. Her wings could not fully open in these tight spaces, but she could glide well enough. She dropped silently, level by level, following his last known position. She found him at the bottom of the narrow shaft, or what was left of him. Landed beside the body, her heart beating fast. This was not possible, was one of the best trackers in the galaxy. How could a single human, injured and alone, kill him so easily? Then she saw the message. Carved into the ice beside the body in crude but clear letters, "You are not hunting me. You are dying in order." Spread her wings to fly, to get out, to warn the others. She heard the crack above her. She looked up just in time to see the ceiling coming down. Had spent an hour weakening the ice above that chamber. Careful cuts with her plasma cutter, invisible from below. All she needed was something heavy to land there, something like a flying predator with wings spread wide. The collapse was total. Tons of frozen rock fell on her before she could move. Her shriek lasted half a second before it cut to silence. In the hunter ship, heard the sound through A's communicator, then nothing. 2 dead, less than an hour into the hunt. The other hunters exchanged looks. This was not how it was supposed to go. They were the predators, they were the killers. Humans were soft, humans were easy. Stood very still for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice colder than the ice outside. Full combat protocol, we go together, no one separates. The remaining 6 hunters checked their weapons. No more games, no more playing with food. They would find this human and tear her apart. But deep in the tunnels was already moving. She had heard the collapse. She knew they would be angry now, careful now. Good. Angry people made mistakes. Careful people moved slowly. She needed them slow. She needed them angry. She needed them to keep coming into her maze one by one until there was no one left. She found a new position, a junction where 3 tunnels met. She started working on her next trap. The plasma cutter was running low on power, but she did not need much. Just enough to weaken one more ceiling, cut one more wire. Her ribs burned with every breath. She was exhausted. She was terrified. But she was also something else, something the hunters did not understand. She was human, and humans did not stop. Humans did not give up. For 1,000,000 years, her ancestors had been the weakest things on their planet. No claws, no fangs, no armor. They should have died in the first generation. But they did not die. They learned. They adapted. They turned their weakness into weapons. They invented fire and blades and traps and poisons. They hunted mammoths and tigers and bears. They became the most dangerous animals on their world, not because they were strong, but because they never stopped trying. Was the daughter of 1,000,000 years of survivors, and she would not die on this frozen moon. Not today. In the darkness of the tunnels, she smiled. Let them come, called for information. He demanded to know everything about their target. Who was this human female? Why was she not dead? The data came back within minutes, transmitted from Dominion intelligence. As read it, his 4 eyes went wide. Vance, former military, not regular military, Nightfall Division. The other hunters did not know that name, but did. During the war, Dominion commanders had learned to fear it. Nightfall operatives were the humans who appeared when a battle was already lost. They did not fight to win. They fought to make the enemy bleed. They fought to make victory cost more than defeat. On 6, a single unit of 12 Nightfall operatives had held a colony against 10,000 Dominion soldiers for 3 months. When the Dominion finally took the colony, they found only 2 operatives still alive, surrounded by mountains of dead soldiers and destroyed equipment. The cost of that victory had bankrupted an entire Dominion fleet. Looked at his remaining hunters, the heavy weapons expert built like a walking tank, the poison specialist whose body produced 100 different toxins, the close combat master faster than the eye could follow, the youngest still eager to prove himself, and the infiltrator who could become invisible in any shadow. 6 hunters against 1 injured human. It should be enough. It had to be enough. She is dangerous, admitted, but she is still alone, still wounded. We will not underestimate her again. They entered the tunnels together, weapons ready, watching every shadow. Led the way, his 4 eyes scanning constantly. Behind him, the others moved in formation, covering every angle. The tunnels were quiet, too quiet. They found the bodies of Anna. They saw the message carved in the ice, ordered them to keep moving, to ignore the fear that was creeping into their hearts. But was not waiting for them. She was watching from the darkness, hidden in a crack too small for any of them to see. She watched them pass, counting their weapons, noting their positions. Then she moved through passages they did not know existed, circling around behind them. Was at the back of the formation. He was the biggest, the strongest, carrying enough firepower to level a small building. He felt safe in his armor, surrounded by his weapons. Nothing could hurt him. He heard a sound behind him and turned, his massive gun spinning up. "Contact!" he roared and opened fire. The tunnel exploded with light and noise. Ice shattered, rocks melted, poured destruction into the darkness, filling the entire passage with death. When he stopped, smoke and steam filled the air. Nothing could have survived that, nothing. But when the smoke cleared, there was no body. Just a piece of thermal cloth, the same trick she had used on, a distraction, a shadow. Turned back to the group. False alarm, just a... He stopped, something was wrong. His ammunition pack felt different, lighter. He reached back and found it missing. In its place was something small and round. The grenade exploded inside his thermal vents. The heat found its way through his armor, through his thick hide, through everything that had made him feel safe. He had time to scream once before he fell. 5 left. Broke, he was young and he had never seen anything like this. He had been told humans were weak. He had been told this would be easy. But now 3 of the best hunters he knew were dead, killed by something they could not see, could not catch, could not stop. He ran. Shouted for him to stop but did not listen. He ran through the tunnels, following the path they had taken, heading for the ship. He would get off this moon. He would forget this nightmare. He would live. He burst out of the tunnel entrance and sprinted across the ice toward the ship. The airlock was ahead. Safety was ahead. He was going to make it. He reached the airlock and slammed his hand against the control panel. The door opened. He stumbled inside. The door closed behind him. Stood in the airlock, breathing hard, waiting for the inner door to open. But it did not open. Instead, he heard a hissing sound. The air was leaving. The seals were broken. He looked at the control panel and saw that it had been sabotaged. Wires cut. Systems disabled. While they were in the tunnels, she had visited their ship. The temperature dropped fast, pounded on the inner door, screaming for help that would never come. His breath turned to ice in front of his face. His skin began to crack in the cold. Watched from behind a ridge of ice, 50 meters away. She had spent precious time sabotaging that airlock, knowing that one of them would break. They always did. Fear was a weapon too, and she had learned to use it well. She watched freeze. She felt nothing. In the war, she had learned to turn off the part of herself that felt sorry for enemies. Maybe that part was gone forever now. Maybe she would regret that later if she survived. But survival came first, always. She turned and headed back toward the tunnels. 4 hunters left, still too many, but the odds were getting better. In the tunnels gathered his remaining team, the best of what was left. "She has been to our ship," he said. "She is not just running, she is hunting us." The words hung in the cold air. Hunting us. The predators had become prey. "What do we do?" asked, his voice uncertain. Thought about it. They could not stay in the tunnels. She knew them better than they did. They could not return to the ship without checking for more traps. They could not call for help because they had no way to explain how 4 of them had died to a single wounded human. "We end this," decided. "We find her, all of us, together. We do not stop until she is dead." They moved deeper into the tunnels, but now they moved differently. Slower, more careful. They checked every corner, every shadow. They no longer talked about how easy this would be. They no longer laughed. Somewhere in the darkness ahead was waiting. She heard them coming. She counted their footsteps. 4 sets, still too many for a direct fight. But she did not need to fight them all at once. She just needed to keep them scared, keep them separated, keep them making mistakes. She thought about her unit on 6, 12 soldiers against an army. Everyone had said it was impossible. Everyone had said they would die in the first week. They held for 3 months. Was alone now, but she carried those 12 soldiers with her, their training, their tricks, their stubborn refusal to die. She melted into the shadows and prepared her next move. The hunt continued. The 4 remaining hunters moved through the tunnels like ghosts, led them, his 4 eyes never stopping their search. Behind him, kept his poison glands ready, held her killing blades and shifted through shadows, almost invisible even to his teammates. They were the best, the deadliest creatures from 4 different worlds. Together, they had killed hundreds of targets across the galaxy. But for the first time in his long life, felt something he did not recognize. It took him a moment to understand what it was. Fear. They had been searching for 2 hours. They had found nothing except old equipment and empty chambers. The human had vanished like smoke. Every corner could hide an ambush. Every shadow could contain death. "This is wrong," hissed. His species communicated through chemicals and the fear scent was thick around him. "She is one human, injured. How is she doing this?" "Quiet," ordered, but he was thinking the same thing. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber, an old mining hub with multiple exits. Equipment was scattered everywhere, covered in frost. Perfect place for an ambush. Signaled for them to spread out and check each exit. Moved toward the leftmost tunnel, his body blending with the shadows. He was the best infiltrator in the squad. Nothing could see him when he did not want to be seen. But was not looking for him, she was listening. Species could become nearly invisible, but they could not silence their footsteps completely. In the perfect quiet of the frozen tunnels, every sound traveled. Had been listening for hours, learning the different footsteps of each hunter. Were they, but they still made a pattern. Step, step, pause. Step, step, pause. She waited in a crack above the tunnel entrance, her body pressed into a space that should have been too small for anything to hide. When past below her, she dropped. The fight lasted 3 seconds, was fast but had surprise. Her plasma cutter, set to maximum, burned through his neck before he could turn invisible. His body hit the ground without a sound. Took his weapon, a long blade made of some metal she did not recognize, and disappeared into the darkness before the others could respond. In the main chamber, the 3 remaining hunters heard nothing, was simply gone. "Report," said into his communicator. Silence. Made a sound like boiling water. She took him without a sound. "Stay together," commanded. "Back to back, do not separate for any reason." But it was already too late. The chamber had 5 exits. They had entered through one. That left 4 places where death could come from. Did not attack again. She did not need to. She let them stand there, three killers pressed together, turning in circles, watching every shadow. She let the fear grow. Minutes passed, nothing happened. The hunter's nerves stretched in. "We cannot stay here," finally said. She was the combat master built for fighting, not waiting. "Let me hunt her. Let me end this." "No," said, "we stay together. Together we are targets." Blades flashed in the dim light. "She is picking us apart because we are acting like prey. We need to attack, now." Shifted nervously. "The ship, we should return to the ship, lift off, bomb these tunnels from orbit." Considered it. The ship was their only way off this moon. If they could reach it, check it for traps, repair whatever damage she had done, they could escape. Live to hunt another day. "Fine," he decided. "We move to the ship together, slowly, check everything." They began the long walk back through the tunnels. Every step felt like a trap. Every shadow looked like death, but nothing attacked them. The tunnels remained silent. They reached the exit and saw their ship sitting on the ice, exactly where they had left it. The airlock where had died was still sealed. Everything looked normal. But when they tried to start the engines, nothing happened. The controls were dead. "The reactor," realized. "She has done something to the reactor." The reactor was in the belly of the ship, accessible through a maintenance shaft. Someone would have to go down there and check. Stepped forward. "I will go, I am fastest. If she is waiting, I will kill her." Wanted to argue, but he knew was right. Of all of them, she had the best chance in close combat. Her blades could cut through anything. Her reflexes were faster than thought. Dropped into the maintenance shaft and moved toward the reactor. The shaft was tight, barely large enough for her body. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. She found the reactor room and stopped. The human was there, standing in the center of the room, holding his blade. For a moment, neither of them moved. "You are injured," observed. She could see the way the human held her body, protecting her damaged ribs. "You are slower now, weaker." "Yes," agreed. Her voice was calm, "but I am still standing." "Attacked." She was fast, faster than anything had ever fought. Her blades were everywhere at once, cutting, slashing, spinning. Blocked what she could and dodged what she could not. The blade she had taken from was the only thing keeping her alive. But was better, stronger, uninjured. A blade got through's guard and slashed across her shoulder. Another cut her leg. She stumbled backward, blood flowing freely now. Smiled with a mouth full of teeth. "You fought well, human, better than anyone expected, but this is where it ends." She lunged for the killing blow. Did not try to block. Instead, she twisted sideways and let the blade pass by her. At the same moment, she drove her own blade forward, not its chest but at her arm. The blade cut through muscle and tendon, and its right arm went limp. Screamed and swung with her other arm. The blade caught across the ribs, her already broken ribs, and the pain was blinding. But did not stop. She could not stop. She grabbed his head with both hands and twisted. The snap echoed through the reactor room. His body dropped to the floor. Collapsed against the wall, gasping for breath. Blood was pouring from her wounds. Her ribs felt like broken glass inside her chest. She might be dying. She probably was dying. But she was not dead yet. She looked at the reactor controls and started working. The ship would not fly, but there were other things she could do. Used poisons. She had seen his equipment in the main cabin. If she could reach the ventilation system, if she could turn his own weapons against him. It took everything. She had to climb back up the maintenance shaft. When she reached the main cabin, was there, alone, had sent him to check on. He saw her covered in blood, barely standing, and his poison glands began to pump. The air around him turned green with toxins. But was already at the ventilation controls. She had switched the canisters while was waiting with the others. His poisons were now inert. The air turning green around him was not his toxin. It was hers. She had found the chemicals in the mining equipment. Simple compounds, harmless alone, but mixed together in the right proportions, they became something else. Breathed in his own death, he had time to look confused before he collapsed. Stepped over his body and walked toward the bridge. One left, just one. Was waiting for her. The hunt was almost over. Stood on the bridge of the hunter's ship alone. He had heard the sounds of fighting in the reactor room. He had heard scream. He had heard's body hit the floor. Now he stood in silence, his 4 eyes fixed on the door, waiting for the human to come. His weapons were ready. His body was tense. For the first time in 100 hunts, he did not know if he would survive. The door opened. Vance stepped onto the bridge. She looked like death. Blood covered her suit. Her face was pale. She moved slowly, each step costing her visible pain. In her hand she carried its blade, now stained with the blood of its former owner. Studied her with all 4 eyes. She should be dead. By every measure, by every calculation, she should have died hours ago. But here she was, standing, breathing, still dangerous. "You have killed 7 of the finest hunters in the galaxy," said. His voice was calm, but something underneath it trembled. "I have never seen anything like this." Said nothing. She was saving her breath. Every word cost energy she did not have. "I have a question," continued. "Before one of us dies, I need to understand. Why did you fight so hard? You were outnumbered. You were injured from the moment you landed. By every calculation, you should have surrendered or died in the first hour. Why did you keep fighting?" Looked at him with eyes that had seen too much death. When she spoke, her voice was rough and tired. "Your people spent 10,000 years at the top of your food chains. You evolved knowing you were the most dangerous things on your worlds. Hunting was natural. Killing was easy. You never had to learn what it meant to be weak." She took a step closer and felt himself tense. Humans did not have that luxury. We evolved running from everything. We were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the deadliest. We had no claws, no venom, no armor. Every day was a fight for survival against things that should have killed us. Another step, raised his weapon. But we did not die. We learned. We adapted. We built tools and weapons and traps. We learned to hunt the things that hunted us. And we kept learning, kept adapting, kept surviving for 1,000,000 years. She stopped, close enough now that neither of them could miss. "You are predators, born predators. You never had to become dangerous, you just were." Her eyes locked onto his. "We are something different. We are prey that learn to bite back. And that makes us worse. Because we know what it means to be afraid. We know what it means to be hunted. And we know exactly how to make our enemies feel the same way." Understood now. He finally understood what humans were. Not a containment-level species, as the Dominion believed. Not weak creatures to be controlled and eliminated. They were an extinction-level event, wearing a friendly face. "I will send a message to the Dominion," said. "I will tell them what you are, what humans really are. Perhaps they will listen. Perhaps this will end the war before more die." Tilted her head slightly. "You think you are leaving this ship?" 4 eyes narrowed. "You are barely standing. I am uninjured, armed, in my prime. You may have killed the others, but I am the leader, the strongest. You cannot beat me in a fair fight." Almost smiled. It was not a nice smile. Who said anything about fair? Saw movement behind her in the reflection of the viewport, but it was not another person. It was a timer connected to the reactor she had sabotaged, a timer that had just reached 0. The ship rocked as the first explosion tore through the lower decks. Fire and pressure warnings screamed from every console. Emergency systems tried to activate and failed. Had not come here to fight, she had come here to die, and to take him with her. "No," roared. He lunged at her, claws extended, ready to tear her apart. But was ready. She had been ready since the moment she walked through that door. She ducked under his claws and drove his blade upward into the soft tissue under his jaw. Grabbed her throat, squeezing with all his strength, but the blade had already found its target. His grip weakened, his 4 eyes dimmed. He fell to the floor and fell with him. For a long moment she lay on the cold metal deck, listening to the ship die around her. Fire suppression systems activated, filling the corridors with foam. The structural damage was contained, barely. The ship would not explode after all. She had planned for death. She had not planned for survival. Slowly, painfully, she pulled herself up. The bridge was a mess of blood and bodies. 8 hunters, 8 apex predators, and 1 human woman. She looked at its corpse and felt nothing. No triumph, no satisfaction, just emptiness and the dull ache of wounds that might still kill her. There was a medical kit on the ship. She found it and did what she could for her injuries. It would not be enough, not without proper treatment, but it might keep her alive long enough to send a message. She limped to the communication console and started recording. "This is Dr. Vance, formerly of the Nightfall Division. You sent 8 hunters to kill me. They failed. I am broadcasting this message on all Dominion frequencies so there is no confusion about what happened here." She paused, gathering strength. "This is my message. We are not afraid. We have never been afraid. You can send more hunters. You can send fleets. You can burn our colonies and scatter us across the galaxy. It will not matter because we will adapt. We will learn, and we will survive. We always do." She ended the transmission and set the ship's beacon to broadcast on repeat. Then she found the escape pod, sealed herself inside, and launched toward the distant stars. Behind her, the hunter ship drifted into orbit around the frozen moon. Its beacon pulsed steadily, calling to anyone who might listen. Inside, 8 bodies lay arranged in a circle on the bridge, placed there by hands that had once sworn to do no harm. In the center of the circle, carved into the deck plating with a plasma cutter, was a single word. Next. 3 weeks later, a Dominion patrol found the ship. They boarded carefully, weapons ready, expecting an ambush. Instead, they found only the dead and the message. The commander of the patrol read the transmission logs. He saw the recordings from the hunters' helmet cameras, showing their deaths one by one. He saw what a single injured human had done to 8 of the deadliest killers in the galaxy. He sent his report to Dominion High Command and recommended immediate reclassification of humanity. Not containment level, not threat level, something new, something that had never been needed before. Extinction level. But it was too late for warnings. Vance's message had already spread across the galaxy. Human colonies had heard it. Human rebels had heard it. Human prisoners in Dominion camps had heard it. And they had remembered what they were. Across the stars, in hidden places and quiet corners, humans began to move. Not running, not hiding, moving toward the fight. Dr. Vance was never seen again. Some said she died in the escape pod before rescue could arrive. Some said she found her way to a secret colony and lived out her days in peace. Some said she was still out there, waiting, ready to remind the galaxy what happened when you underestimated humanity. But it did not matter what happened to one woman. What mattered was the legend. In the dark places where humans gathered, her name became a whisper. A story told to children and soldiers alike. A reminder that no matter how far they ran, no matter how hard they fell, they were the descendants of survivors. And survivors did not give up. Ever. The ship's beacon continued to pulse, orbiting the frozen moon. Empty, silent, a monument to 8 hunters who had thought themselves predators. They had been wrong. Humanity was the predator now.